Hello, I am Professor Bunny Spiegelman, and today I'm going to be talking about vengeance, um, which is a topic that's very close to me personally for a number of different reasons. But right now, because as Janine Garofalo once said, sometimes life imitates a cliche comedy bit, and in this particular case, my boyfriend just broke up with me. So, so yeah, revenge is on my mind. And when I was little, my father used to always tell me um, that the one great common denominator to all human existence is suffering and pain. So if you ever wanted anyone to suffer, really all you had to do was wait. He said vengeance was a waste of energy. Just, pull up a lawn chair and get a margarita. It's coming whether you do anything or not. And he was an emergency room doctor. And so, looking around at the world when I was a child, and I was very sick as a child, I had cancer, and I'm looking at all these other kids who are, running around and playing, and, they're not worried about hospitalizations and surgeries and IVs and flying to, see specialists. And I thought, oh, yeah, no, suffering is, it's ubiquitous. Everybody, no. I didn't believe my father at all. Until decades later. Right after I graduated from college, I started dating this absolutely wonderful human being. This man who was just, I really didn't think that they made people that perfect. I mean, he was not only, just gorgeous physically, but had a great sense of humor and was fun and was smart and was creative, and he was an architect. And I mean, we would go out on these fabulous dates, and I mean, I really didn't believe that there was a human being out there that was just that perfect, and that he would be interested in me. So I'm dating him, and I was idyllically happy. But of course, every moment that I'm dating him, I'm waiting for the moment that he's like, what am I doing? And sure enough, after 3 months, he just vanished. No phone call, no voicemail, it's not you, it's me, no email, I'm just not in the right place, nothing, not even a postcard, nothing, just vanished into the ether. And at that time, I was up in the air about a lot of things. I was waiting to get into graduate school, I didn't know where I was going to go, and so I was really, unhinged. And then for this to happen, I just turned into this maniac who was obsessed with like running over the last moment of every conversation and the last date, and just looking for some clue. Where had I gone wrong? Where was that moment where it ended? And eventually, I accepted that I was never going to get an answer, that I would never know what had happened. And I believed, because he was so perfect, that he was out there having this wonderful life, out by a pool with 17 girls who, whatever, having drinks. And I went to graduate school, and I ended up meeting this other person and getting engaged and being very happy. And 3 years later, about 2 weeks before Christmas, I get a phone call from Mr. Perfect, who I haven't heard from in 3 years. And I was just in shock. And he gives me this story about, oh, I found your phone number in an old notebook, and I knew it was a sign I was meant to call you. I was like, oh, all right. I knew he was lying, but I knew that to find the truth, I had to pretend to believe. So I did. And we became kind of friends. We email once in a while, talk on the phone on occasion. One night in August, I just finished teaching summer semester, and my fiance was in California with his family, visiting his parents for the weekend, and Mr. Perfect called and said, I think I owe you a drink. And I was like, oh, honey, I think you owe me more than one. And so we meet at a bar, and he's drinking gin and tonics like fast and loose. And I know, I'm like, oh, tonight is the night. So I'm drinking Coronas really slowly, like just biding my time. And by midnight, I know that his blood alcohol level is at that perfect ratio where, like, he's not so drunken that he doesn't know what the hell he's saying and he's incoherent and, muttering. But on the other level, he's just drunk enough to tell me the truth. It's perfect level. So I just turned and I was like, what really happened, Chris, all those years ago when you just vanished, And he looked at me and he said, it was never you. I know that's probably what you thought, but it was never you. And I don't know if this will make you feel better, but what happened was I had been dating a girl for a year before I met you, and I thought she was the one that I was meant to spend my life with. And she broke up with me a week before we met. And then when we went back to school, she wanted to get back together. And as I said, I really thought she was the woman that I was supposed to spend the rest of my life with. And I knew you, and I knew that if I told you what was going on, that you'd blame yourself and think if I was only taller or smarter or better or cuter or whatever, that if only you were different, that I would stay. But really, it wasn't you at all. And she was crazy. And so we ended up living together, and she would try and kill herself. And when I would try and stop her, she would try and kill me. And then she would call the cops and tell them that I was abusing her. And this went on for a while. And then, for Thanksgiving, I went home to visit my parents. And when I came back, she had taken all of her stuff and all of my stuff and my cat. And I got this big bottle of vodka and got into the bathtub, which was pretty much the only piece of furniture she had left. And I thought of you. And I realized how wrong I had been to just vanish like I did. And how hard it is to accept when somebody you care about just disappears without even leaving a note. And the truth is, I don't really care about my stuff so much, but I'd really like to know that my cat's all right. And this man who I had agonized over, who I had been heartbroken over for so long, I ended up comforting him in that bar and telling him it was okay, that it hadn't upset me that much. But I remembered what my father had said, that suffering is the great common denominator of all human existence. And that if I had plotted and planned and drafted, helpers and had an unlimited, number of resources that I could just spend on this poor guy, I couldn't have done any better than the universe did all on its own with absolutely no help from me. So the next time you wish great suffering on somebody, just remember, all you have to do is wait. And a couple of cocktails never hurt anybody.